At the beginning of week 2, we review sits and downs. So I'm going to show you a little trick how to get them to like the downs better. If you associate the down with anything fun, they'll like the downs better. So Miss Gracie likes treats. She also likes her food. She likes going for walks. And she likes antlers and things to chew on. So if I have her do a down and then give her a treat, that's her reward. Or if I have her do a down and then I feed her, that's her reward. Or I have her do a down right before we go for a walk. So she'll start to think down means something really fun or something really good is going to happen. And so feeding is a perfect time to turn it into a little training time. I feed breakfast and dinner, and so it gives you 2 times a day you can turn it into a little training time. So first I start with sits, and as soon as they sit, I set the food dish down. And then I move to downs once they understand the concept that as soon as they do the command sit, the food dish comes down. Then you can move to the harder command, which is down. I feed her in the same spot in the kitchen every day, so she goes to her spot and waits patiently for me to feed her. If you have multiple dogs like we do, we met all 4 of our dogs, then if you have their own separate area for them to eat, it makes feeding time go a lot more calmly. And you also don't want them to start fighting or having to defend their food dishes or their food bowl. So I feed in a separate spot for each dog in the house. Grace eats in the kitchen, Gabe eats in a different part in the kitchen, and the Chihuahuas eat in their little crates because it's easy to have crates that are only this big. Plus they like their little crates, and it gives them a space that's theirs to eat, peacefully and not have to worry about anybody stealing their food. Don't let your dogs, if you have multiple dogs, switch food dishes and have to compete or defend their food. You're only going to have problems down the road. It's a really bad idea. Plus that way I know who eats what and that she finished her dish. If they're all just free feeding, then I won't know that. And my first sign that something's wrong with one of my dogs is if they don't eat. Luckily I have 4 good eaters right now. Everybody finishes their dinners, breakfast, no matter what. So if there's anything left in the bowl or if they didn't eat, that's a sure sign something's wrong. And we go straight to the vet, don't we? So when we're first starting this exercise, I work with sit and then I set her food dish down. She says, I want to hurry and eat. So as a little prop, I have a Chihuahua dish. Gracie has a real dish in the house. And then I just threw a couple kibbles in here so that she gets something. But this is just a demo. She has a real food dish. And she already ate breakfast, so she's not hungry. Even though she looks like she is, she's not hungry. So I'll start with sit and then I'll set the food dish down. And then I'll move to down and I'll set the food dish down. And so you already know how to get them into a sit. So I'm going to start with a sit, and then as soon as I stand up, I'll be out of the camera. So I'm going to start with a sit, and then I'm going to move to the down command. But getting them in the down might be kind of tough when they're looking at this food dish. So you might have to set it up on a counter or a tabletop. And of course this is just a chair, but set it up on something high. That way you can help them into the down, like we talked about yesterday. Then you can reach up and get the food dish and set it down for them. But she has to be in the down position before the food dish hits the ground. If she starts to get up before, nope, just goes right back up, and we start from scratch. So what it looks like. All right, Grace. Good girl. Come on, Gracie. I'm gonna have her sit. Good girl. And then I would set the food dish down. We'll get you facing the camera. Yeah. So she already knows that down's the next thing. I'm going to pretend she didn't do it, and I'm going to set the food dish over here. And we'll pretend I need to help her into the down. Remember, reach around like you're giving them a hug and help them into the down. Nice and easy. Slide these front feet. Once she's down, then the food dish comes down. If she gets up, oh, it goes right back up and we start again. So what it looks like all together, and she's quick. She doesn't want to waste any time. She knows the quicker she hits the ground, the faster the food dish comes down to her level as well. Gracie, down. Oh, good girl. And I tell her, okay, and I set the food dish down, and as you can see, she ate that very quickly. Week 2 is walking on leash. There are 2 styles of walking on leash. One is just a casual walk where maybe you're in a big park area or you're hiking and you're letting your dog go out on a long leash. Maybe you have one of those flexi leashes where it rolls back into the canister and you're in an environment where you can let your dog go out 10 feet, 20 feet. I often use those kind of leashes for hiking, or if I'm in a big park area where I don't have to worry about my dog being really close to me. Then there's the heel, and that's what we're going to work on in class. Both styles we're going to teach them not to pull, because that's important. But the heel command means to stay at your heels. And you'll see on the notes at the top, there's the holding the leash correctly in the heel and the automatic sit. This whole page is about the heel command. So going back to the casual walk, we still don't want them to pull us, but they have more freedom. Like I said, maybe you're in a rest area and you want them to sniff around, go potty. You have space to let them go out, 10 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, whatever. Or you're hiking or in a park. So we still don't want them to pull, and the concept that we're going to work on with heel is still going to work for that, but we're not having them right at our heels, which is where the word heel came from. So when we work on the heel command, we're going to teach them to walk on one side, because you don't want a dog that goes back and forth, and can possibly trip you. And usually dog training is done with them on your left. But it's personal preference. If you guys prefer to teach with them on your right side, just reverse all my lefts and rights. But left side is, if you haven't picked a side, I would recommend left side. It's kind of dog training 101 to work with them on your left. But also if you're walking down the street opposing traffic, traffic is going by you on the right, and your dog is on the left side where they can sniff, the grass and the trees and be out of traffic's way. And so that's one really good reason to keep them in a heel. So times that you would use the heel command would be walking in the street. You don't want them in people's yards, and you don't want them in the street. So you want them right by your side. Walking on the Centennial Trail, same thing. You don't want them off the trail, especially once we start having cheatgrass and tall grass issues. And you also don't want them, going across the trail where bikes are going, and you don't want to trip anybody. The Centennial Trail is an excellent place where you need to work on the heel position. If you're able to walk in a pet store, that's another place you want to work on heel. You don't want them stealing stuff off the shelves or tripping other customers that are shopping for their dogs too. Veterinarian office, very important place to work on the heel. You walk in with your dog right by your left side. It's not good to go into a vet office and let your dog go running up to the other customers' dogs. They might be there because they're sick. They may not be friendly to other dogs, or it might be a cat that the person has, and that's not a good thing to let your dog run up to somebody's cat who's already freaked out because they're at the vet's office. So veterinarian office is a very good place to work on heels too. And we work on heels in class when we get to class. So if you're out just walking on, a casual walk where you're in a big park area, you can use that long leash, and I say let's go or free or something that tells them that they can have some freedom of the leash. They don't have to be right at your side. But when we work on the heel command, I use the word heel. I've heard other people say walk or different words. When we're in classes, I say the word forward so people know to start walking, but that's really a people command. But some people have adapted that with their dog, and that's fine too. But the command we have in the notes is the word heel. To start the heel, I'll ask them to sit, and that way they're waiting patiently in a sit for you to walk. And to teach them to sit so patiently at my side, I just ask him to sit if they get back up. So it's just repetition. And then I don't start until he's in a sit, which he's very, very patient. There you go, good boy. Oh, almost dropped the cookie. Right thumb in the loop, pick up the slack of the leash. So all the leash is in your right hand. That leaves your left hand free to reach down and pet him. You can reach in your pocket for cookies. And if I have a cookie, whoa, got his attention there, sit, good boy. I keep it between my finger and my thumb. That way I can reach down and also get the leash, to make corrections on the leash as well. So right thumb in the loop, pick up the slack of the leash, so all the leash is in your right hand. Left hand is then free to grab the leash where you need it. You also have cookie in left hand, and I can reach down and pet him or pat my leg to keep his attention. Often I see people put leash in right hand, or leash in left hand, cookie in right hand. And what happens then is, see how he immediately started looking over here because the cookie's over here. Neighbors. And they're gonna gravitate to where the cookie is. And so if he's paying attention to the cookie over here, when I go to walk, he's in my way. So if I put right thumb in the loop, pick up the rest of the leash with my right hand, and then my left hand, I can direct him wherever I want him with this cookie. Good boy. So we start in a sit. He's sitting very well, good boy. I'm gonna say his name, heel, step out with my left foot, and that way he learns to follow my lead. And I'm going to walk with a loose leash, and you don't want the leash, so loose they trip on it, or you trip on it, but you don't want a tight leash. You don't want the leash tight all the time and they won't learn, but also it's uncomfortable for you and it's uncomfortable for them. So if they get too far ahead, or if they go over where you don't want them to, or they try to cross in front of you or behind you, you're going to use the leash to guide them back to your left side and then relax it. It's called a quick release. So he's too far over here, I'm going to guide him back, relax the leash. Quick release. But you got to remember to release the leash. Handler error number 1 is to keep the leash too tight because we want him right by our side. But you got to remember it's not comfortable and they won't learn. So when I first start out, his name, heel, step out with my left foot, nice loose leash, and I'm going to keep this cookie in front of his nose to keep him focused on me. If they start attacking your hands and it hurts, or they're biting at the cookie and trying to get it out of your fingers, rather than doing this, I see this a lot. Pretty soon puppies out in front are jumping up to get the cookie. If they're attacking your fingers, behind your back, out of sight, out of mind, or back in pocket, just take the cookie away. As soon as the cookie is by their nose, though, they're going to be kind of interested in it. You can break off little pieces and give it to them as you're walking. All right, we're going to try it. Ready? Gabe, heel. Good boy. Very good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Yes, good boy. As soon as I stop, I ask him to sit, and I have Cookie ready to give him a little piece of cookie as soon as he sat. So you saw how I was able to lead him literally by the treat. I gave him a little piece as we were walking as well. We're going to do that again, and that way you can see more of that focusing on the treat. Ready? Gabe, heel. Good boy, very good boy. Good boy. That's a very good boy. Good boy, Gabe. Very good boy. Good sit. As soon as I stop, I ask him to sit and give him a treat. I don't have to tell him sit anymore. He just does it automatically. And that's where that automatic sit comes in. He did a very good job. Lots of praise. You notice the whole time I was talking to him and praising him, you gotta work with them, gotta interact with them, or they just get bored and they start going off on their own. Good boy, Gabe. Sit. Very good. Now here's Halo, and Halo's in a harness. You can kind of see the type of harness it is here. Hooks in the back, and I only use these for really, really young puppies and very small puppies. And Halo's 1.5 years, so he's not young, but he is small. He's 5.5 pounds. And I like walking in these harnesses because at 5.5 pounds, he cannot drag me down the street. But also, if we're walking and a big dog comes running out at us, I could, if I have to, pick him up by this harness. And so it's just a really safe way to walk a tiny dog. But if I was to put a harness like this that hooks in the back on Gabe, I can guarantee you he'd pull me and you down the street. It's very, very strong. And so we don't use back hooking harnesses on large dogs because they're designed to let them pull. But when we're out walking in the street and stuff, I like these harnesses on the little dogs. It really is just a safety thing that if you had to in an emergency, you could pick them up by this. By the way, if you guys have little dogs, don't wait and see what happens. If some big dog comes running out, pick them up. Don't trust that dogs are going to be nice. 5.5 pounds is too little to see what happens. And so I'm always scanning when we're walking, and if I see a dog off leash, out of control, anything, he's in my arms. And I've had people say, they're nice, and I say, that's good. He's too little for me to wait and see. So I'm just very protective of my little dogs, and you should be too. They rely on us to be, their protectors, and 5.5 pounds is pretty little. So that's why I use the back hooking harnesses on my little tiny dogs. And so I'm gonna put Halo on the floor, and I'll show you how I work with them when we are only 5 pounds and only come up to just above my ankles. Halo's so little, I don't know if you can see him, but I have my right thumb in the loop, little slack going to his harness with the leash, cookies in left hand. Every time he looks up at me, I'm gonna say yes, because that tells me doing it right. It'll take me a second to get this cookie to his nose, because he's way down there. Halo, heel. Yes, good boy. Yes, good boy. saw how he walked kind of right at my side, and if he got too far ahead, I was able to bring him back, you know, with the leash. And he was watching me because, you know, he knows I have Cookie. Come here. One thing with little dogs, you just have to always come down to them. So to give him a cookie, I come down here. It's pretty cute. Yes, it is. Good boy. I put the camera on the floor to give you a little better angle at him, so you could kind of see what the leash does. And you'll be able to see those little corrections I do when he gets too far ahead. Hello, sit. Good boy. I always start and end with them in a sit. So he's sitting. I'm going to say, Halo, yep, good boy. Yes, good boy. Yes, good boy. Yes, good boy. Good boy. So you can see I kind of used the leash to direct him right to my left side. I kept walking a comfortable for me but brisk pace to keep his interest. And he's looking at me so well. Good boy. You did so good. Good, yep. Good boy. Sit. Good boy. Good boy. So that's the beginning of the walking on leash. There's a lot more to learn. There's a lot more coming up. I'll show you guys some different turns and some different ways we can keep their focus. So practice just for now, walking a straight line. Practice in your house, practice in your yard. If they're used to your backyard, maybe practice in your front yard. Go for a walk in a park, go for a walk on the Centennial Trail. Those places are going to be more distracting, and you might have to bring out the higher value treat for the more distracting environments. Your house and your backyard, the places they're used to, they're not going to be as distracting, so you'll have a little bit more of their undivided attention. But you might have to break out the high value treats when you go to the more distracting places. But the way they learn how to work through the distractions is just working in distractions. So you want to take them places that are different and have fun with it. Just go for a fun little short walk and keep training fun. 20 minutes is a good starting point, like I said on the notes. And then after you work on heels for about 20 minutes, if you still want to walk more, remember that casual walk. You can walk on a long leash and let them have more freedom of the leash. Well, there's a lot more to come, so stay tuned.